Some more RABEA style rhythmic coolness today, and it was inspired by this album, which is Fire by the Silos by Toska. I absolutely adore this album, and I think it is so super cool and brave, because you know what, he doesn't solo on this album. He is one of the most incredible lead players that I've seen in recent years, but this is just rhythm, and it is so engaging, so cool, and I've listened to this a few times and it just keeps my attention every single time. Just so much texture, so much kind of just richness and fullness in what RABEA is doing, and you know what the drums and the bass are doing as well. Beautifully crafted album. So I wanted to kind of just follow on from my last video of the RABEA chord, which I coined the term, and give you some heaviness and use those types of chords in a heavier setting. So I plugged into my incredible Bogner Überschall pedal to get that Kraken-esque tone, and basically did that track you just heard. So I'm going to show you how I did it. Yeah! Got by this album, guys. Seriously, it is super cool. It is so beautifully done. Amazing album. Toska's Fire by the Silos. Let's get going with this. Let me show you how to do this. Yeah! Alrighty, so I am playing my Harley Benton guitar on my bridge pickup for this awesome rhythm. And initially what I did was I just wanted to follow what the drums were doing on the track. And actually, if I play the drums back, I'm just going to solo up the drums. You'll hear what the drums are doing. So it's that kind of and that's what I wanted to emulate on the guitar, because I really wanted the guitars to kind of, you know, really melt in with the drums and work with the drums, and the bass as well. I did the same thing with the bass. So what I did was I was just alternate picking, and then with my left hand here, I'm just damping the strings or opening the strings. So the beats I wanted to do were the first beat, and then you know, there's a pause, then a da-ka-dang, then another pause, and a da-ka-dang-dang. Which is how I figured it out in my head. And it's kind of, you know, just an extension of the funk playing that I do sometimes. So when I kind of experimented a little bit, it kind of turned into this. So, like I said, what I'm doing here is I'm just very lightly touching the strings, and then I'm basically just alternate picking. I'm basically just going like this. And I'm opening up the notes to basically synchronize with my drum pattern. So that was the drum beat. Dan, da dan, da dan, dan. Now, depending on the drum beat that you're working to, you can basically kind of do a similar technique in order to kind of, you know, get the guitars really working with the drum pattern. And it's a great way to actually, you know, create a rhythm pattern which just synchronizes with everything, especially on guitar, so that, you know, the guitars, the drums, the bass, everything is working together. All right, right at the end there, I just did this. So it's a 0, 2, 3 on the low string, which is tuned down a whole step, and then 0, 2, 3 on the D string. And when I take my finger off the low string, I let it ring. So it's not just a clean. I wanted that slightly dirty sound coming across off the low string, still ringing out, because that's our root note that I'm, you know, playing to. And doesn't this Bogner pedal sound glorious? It's so cool. I'm going to pop it up like that so you can see it. And you know, this is without the boost on. It's just such a great sounding pedal. It's just got this, you know, super crunchy sound, which is just awesome, and it works really well for this. Obviously RABEA uses Victory amps, Kraken, and you know, when I was experimenting with sound, this is the one that, you know, kind of gave me the ballpark sound. Anywho's, after that I'm gonna go into the RABEA chord. And I played this. Yeah, and you need the ambience there in order to create that big sound, which is why I've left it on while I'm showing you, because it actually is part of the sound, it's part of the vibe, and when you actually play with that, you know, your playing actually goes to a different place. Well, I find my playing does anyways, hence I've left the delay on. Alright, so I'm using the RABEA chord which I showed in the last lesson which I did on the RABEA chord. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link somewhere up here so that you can go and check that out. And essentially all I'm doing is I'm playing the root and the third of the chord. So I'm only playing two notes, but they're actually on two very different strings. One's on the low string and then the other one's on the G string. So I've essentially got to dampen out two strings in between. I have to mute the A string and I have to mute the D string as well, because I only want to hear the notes on the low string and the G string. And the first chord that I'm doing is from the 3rd fret of the low string and the 2nd fret of the G string. Now how I'm damping the other strings is with two techniques actually. So this finger here is actually laying slightly flat so that it's actually touching the A string, so it's muting it out. So the low string is still open, but the A string is actually muted out. Now my first finger is on the 2nd fret here of the G string, and that's actually, the tip of it is touching the D string, so that's damping out the D string. So it's the combination of the two which is going to allow me to actually just sweep down and hit those two strings, or hit all 4 strings and only hear the 2 strings. In addition, this finger is laying quite flat, so it's laying flat against the B string and the E string. So it's damping out those 2 strings as well. So when I'm playing, I can really go for it. And this is a really good technique to learn because you can get your chords really super clean this way. It works for lead playing as well. Okay, so I'm going to play this chord first. So I essentially just downstroke it 6 times. Then I'm going to move this up 2 frets. So I'm going to go to the 5th fret of the low string and the 4th fret of the G string. And same thing. But I'm going to just pick it twice. Then I'm going to come up 2 frets on the low string, so I'm going to come up to the 7th fret, and I'm going to come up 1 fret on the G string, so I'm on the 5th fret now. And this time I'm going to pick this one 4 times. I'm then going to move up position, so I'm going to go to the 10th fret of the low string and the 9th fret of the G string, and again I'm going to pick it 4 times. So that's going to give us our first chords. I almost missed that last chord. I recovered it, yay! Alright, the second time I do it, I play the same chords, but I play a variation. So right at the end there, rather than going from the 7 and the 5 over to the 10 and the 9, I come back to the 5 and the 4. So that's the only change. So I'll start off with the same chord to begin with. Second chord's the same. Third chord's the same. Fourth chord, I just come back one to the 5 and the 4. Third time I play the same as the first time. Now instead of going back down, I actually come up one position. So I'm going to come to the 12th fret of the low string, 10th fret of the G string, and I'm going to pick this 3 times, and then I'm going to add in the 13th fret of the B string and then the 12th fret of the B string. Then I'm going to come up one position again. So this time I'm going to come to the 14th fret of the low string and the 13th fret of the G string. And this time I'm going to add in the 15th fret of the B string as well. And I'm going to pick this. And slide out. So that's going to be the whole of that chordal rhythm that I did. Alright, after that I go into this nice heavy piece where I'm basically just chugging on the low string and doing some, just some triplet picking. So initially I just do this. So all I'm doing is playing the open low string 4 times. And then I'm doing 2 triplets which are muted. Now the timing for these first 4 are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 2 and 3 and 4. And you can probably hear my pick in between when I'm doing the and, hitting the string just in order to kind of, space it out. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. And then I do the triplets. Then what I'm going to do is same thing, the 4 again. And then I do this little kind of riff thing, which I just find uber cool. All I'm doing is on the low string I'm picking at the 0, hammering on to 10 and 12. Then I'm going to pick the open A and hammer on to the 11, and then I'm going to hammer on to the 13th fret of the low string. So I'm actually not going to hammer onto the A string. I'm basically going to use my 3rd finger to hammer straight onto the low string, and I'm not going to pick the low string. So I'm doing that. This is a technique which I kind of picked up from Nuno Betancourt's playing, because he does this in various songs on Extreme albums, and it's just a fantastic technique to use. You initially think he's going to go to another note on the same string, and he basically goes lower string, and it sounds fantastic, especially quickly. It's a pretty cool effect. Alrighty, so after that I'm going to go back to doing the chugs and the triplets. Now when I do the second repeat, I'm basically going to start off the same way. Now at the end I'm going to change it. What I'm going to do is this. So it's the first 2 chords that I played during the chord section which preceded this. So it's going to be the 3rd fret of the low string, 2nd fret of the G. I'm just picking it 4 times, alternate picking, down, up, down, up. And my damping is working beautifully here because I'm only hearing those 2 notes. Then I'm going to move to the next chord, which is going to be the 7th fret of the low string and the 5th fret of the G. Again, I'm just going to pick it 4 times. Alrighty, now what I'm going to do is do the 4 again. Actually, I'm going to do 3 there, and then I'm going to do this. So I'm going to extend the little riff that I did. So on the low string, it's the same 0, 10 and 12. A strings is going to be the same, the 0, the 11, and then hammering on to the 13 on the low string. Then I'm going to come down to the D string, and I'm going to pick the D string, then I'm going to hammer onto the 10th fret and then the 12th fret of the A string. Then I'm going to come back on myself, so A string, open A, 11th fret, 13 on the low string. So I've got 4 now. Which sounds fantastic. You know, I just love the way that sounds. It's got a cool vibe to it. And then what I'm going to do is start off the same way again with the chugs and the triplets. But then I'm going to go into this. So the same 2 chords that I did previously, the 3 and the 2 on the low string and the G string, 4 times, alternate picking, then going over to the 7 and the 5, again alternate picking 4 times. But this time to end with, what I'm going to do is come back to the 5th fret of the low string, 4th fret of the G string, and pick it 8 times alternate picking. I'm then going to repeat the whole thing over again. Then right at the end of the track I go into a clean part, so it's time to turn this pedal off and have a nice ambient clean sound. Oh yeah. I think I used split coils for this, maybe the middle position. That is so cool. You know what, I'm going to leave this on just because it sounds nice in the room. Alrighty, so the chords I am playing are, initially I'm just playing a D chord, so open low string, open A string, open D string, 2nd fret of the G string, 3rd fret of the B string. And I'm kind of just, you know, sweeping down, kind of arpeggiating it slightly. And again, with that ambience, it just rings out, it creates a kind of almost synthy type of sound and vibe. Then I'm going to keep this chord, and all I'm going to do is add the 3rd fret of the low string. So I'm doing this with my 2nd finger. So when I actually fret the D chord, I'm doing it like I would an open D chord. I'm not doing it with my 1st and 2nd fingers. I'm using my 1st and 3rd. So my 2nd finger is still free. And I'm going to reach over to the low string, 3rd fret, and I'm going to add that in. Alrighty, the 3rd chord, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide up, and this time I'm going to go to the 5th fret of the low string and the 3rd fret of the G string. I'm also going to add in the 6th fret of the B string. So this would be my 3rd chord. Then going to change the note on the B string to the 5th fret. Now as you can hear, the ambience actually kind of carries everything, and it's the reason I kept it on rather than turning it off and just giving you the dry chords. This really works well with that ambient sound. Alrighty, I'm going to move up one position again, and this time I'm coming to the 7th fret of the low string, 5th fret of the G string, and the 8th fret of the B string. This time I'm going to change the note on the G string, so I'm going to go from the 5th fret to the 6th fret of the G string. So this time I'm playing the 7th fret of the low string, 6th fret of the G string, and the 8th fret of the B string. Alrighty, after this I'm going to slide up 1 fret on the low string so that I'm on the 8th fret of the low string. I'm going to go to the 7th fret of the G, and then I'm going to go to the 10th fret of the B. I'll then change the note on the B string to the 8th fret. So I'm playing the 8th fret of the low string, 7th fret of the G string, and the 8th fret on the B string as well. And then basically what I did was I repeated those chords but just arpeggiated them. etc., etc. And then right at the end, I just went back to this D chord, played it, and then added this. Nice little touch right at the end. So there you go, guys. That's how I played that little rhythm, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the channel and also give it a thumbs up as well, as it helps a lot. And if you would like to support the channel, you can find me on Patreon as well. I will be back for another video really soon. In the meantime, I know you want to hear this again. I know I want to play it for you again. So here we go. Here's the track again. Enjoy, guys. Have a great day. See you later.